It's a little rare for me to hate a game because I want to love it. But all right, hate is a strong word. I don't hate this game, but maybe you can relate to the feeling I have about it. So Battle Axe, it's an arcade-style hack and slash game from Bitmap Bureau. They're the developer behind Xenocrisis and Final Vendetta, and I really enjoyed those two games. And man, does Battle Axe look amazing. You got these retro-inspired graphics, arcade gameplay, and the music is awesome. The gameplay, I don't have much to complain about either. You have a normal attack, an ability attack, and a projectile. You need to learn quick how these different moves work if you want to progress past the first stage. I mean, it may seem a bit difficult at first, but once you've got the gist of things, it's not much a challenge to breeze through the game. So, Battle Axe, it did come out over a year ago, but recently got a PS5 version released with some updates over the previous versions. Now, those versions are said to get the same updates as well, but I can't speak to that as I haven't played them. But now you have a casual difficulty mode that, despite the advertising saying it has unlimited continues, it's really just a bit easier mode with 9 lives. You could still game over in casual difficulty. Now, also, they added a strafing mechanic, which, man, I don't know how I would have played this game without that, because you got to use your projectile against a lot of the bosses, and it just doesn't seem like the game would have been much fun if you didn't have strafing, but okay, they added that. So I'm glad I never played it without it. And then they also did some rebalancing to the game and added an improved CRT shader. Now, this game, it's light on story. Essentially, you just pick one of the 3 heroes, you go out and defeat the evil sorceress. Now, each of the selectable characters, they do vary slightly, but they play pretty much the same. Now, here's where my problem starts. The game is a blast to play. I'm not going to deny that. The combat feels smooth, the animations and graphics look amazing, but that only lasts so long. The game only has 4 stages, and it can be completed fairly quickly once you've become accustomed to the layouts of the stages and how the enemies behave. Nothing changes between playthroughs. It's just more of the same with each stage, just getting more difficult and adding enemies that have different attacks, but fundamentally, it's all the same. Enemies that attack you straight on, or they shoot projectiles, or they dash towards you. Now, each of the bosses, they're actually really easy once you realize just strafe while throwing your projectiles and dodge them with your ability move when needed. Now, sure, the bosses and enemies in the stages will be more challenging depending on the difficulty you play on, but this game is really designed like an old school arcade game. So the only thing that is here to motivate you to continue playing on higher difficulties is a high score. But you're competing with yourself. That's it. There are no online leaderboards. This isn't in an arcade that's crowded and people can see your name posted up. You're competing against yourself. Now, there are other things you could do in each stage. Like, all 4 of the stages have a set number of people to rescue, and I really did make that a point on my first playthrough to find every single hostage, as initially, I thought it was a required goal. Like, yeah, that little counter on the bottom of the screen for each person that you rescue. I mean, I thought the game was inspired by Zombies Ate My Neighbors at first, just with a fantasy setting. But nope, you don't need to save anybody. They are just a distraction, a way to get more points to get a higher score. That's it. That's the only reason they're there. The only thing that I found worth collecting in stages was the gold coins. But still, not even 100% necessary in the end, as the game's just so damn short. But, okay, with the gold coins in between stages, you could spend that on items like a magic scroll or meat. So, magic to deal damage to enemies on screen or to heal a little speck of your life while, playing in the next stage. But these items can also be found in treasure chests and stages, so not really worth buying, as you can only have one of them. And if you buy another item, it just replaces the first one you bought. And the same thing happens in stages if you find them. The items that are kind of worth buying are the extra health and the other modifier items. But still not 100% necessary, but does help out a bit. So the main thing you're doing in the stage is, if you're not trying for a high score, is just get to the end and defeat the boss. You can ignore the people that need saving and a lot of the enemies if you want. The only things that really need to be killed to progress are the energy generator things, as they will unlock like areas that are blocked in order for you to progress. Now, when you beat the game once, a new Game Plus mode gets unlocked, which poses a new challenge. So that's a good thing, replayability, right? but it's the same game and the same stages, slightly more difficult, but now the stages are mirrored. That's it. Now, you also do have an infinite mode, and then, hey, more replayability, right? But this mode is just a high score run type of thing. Select your character, enter a randomly generated maze, trying to find all the hostages to unlock the next stage. So, okay, this sounds a little bit more like Zombies Ate My Neighbors, right? But again, the end goal is just for a high score. Just keeps going. There's not really much going on here. So I really don't feel this game has much replayability, even with those two modes that are, extras essentially. I mean, maybe if you're a speedrunner or you're looking for some kind of crazy world record high score or something, you'll get a lot more time out of it. But I felt I got to see everything worth seeing and experiencing in like 30 minutes of gameplay. And while I did play through the game several times, it was only to make sure I could give it a fair review and make sure I didn't miss anything. Like I said, initially I thought this was like Zombies Ate My Neighbors, but it wasn't. So while I was provided this game for review, I still have to take a look and see what the price is of the game. And while this can be subjective depending on who you talk to, price definitely is a big deciding factor for many people when it comes to the games they buy. If the content doesn't justify the price tag, a game can be dead in the water from the start. And unfortunately here, for me, the price tag is definitely something I have to consider. If it had a reasonably low price tag, I think I'd be more forgiving for the short game and the lack of content. But here, for the PS5 version, physically, you're being asked to pay $45. Now, to the right person, that may seem fair. The PS5 physical version does come with a CD soundtrack, so maybe there's some value there for some people. But then, looking at the other releases, the physical version for the Switch and PS4, the game's $30 on Amazon. Actually, typically it's on sale for a little less. So you're paying $15 for the new packaging and the soundtrack, I guess. Okay, well, maybe digitally the game is cheaper then, right? No, it's not. It's $30 digitally on consoles and PC. Like I said, price can be subjective, but it's something I really thought about here. Like, this game is not crazy expensive, but does the price really, the content, does it really justify the price tag? So this is one of the rare times where I really like the game, but feel it's just not worth the price because it lacks in content. It's inspired by old school arcade games, but I don't see why that means it has to be this short and lacking of content. You don't get continues, you don't get to pump quarters into the game. What your set number of lives are is all you get, so beat it with a few lives and be done with it, and you've seen everything. I love old school arcade games, and I want to love this game too. I mean, I really like what there is of this game, but it feels incomplete. It feels like a demo almost. It's a shame the game has less content than plenty of arcade games from 30 years ago that inspired this game. Battle Axe, it had a ton of potential. Could have been beyond amazing in my opinion. But there you go, my review. My thoughts. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Bye.